Well, well, look who it is. I knew that voice anywhere, and I looked up into the smiling face of Marcus and his grandfather. I'd seen them more often these days, and had even gone out to the house a few times to have a meal or a drink. There were definitely a few of Grandpa's stories that I wanted to turn into parts of my book, but the more I heard, the more notes Marcus showed me, the more I thought this might be its own book. More than that, though, the two had become my friends, and I was thankful to have met them. What brings you back today? I asked, as I saved my charts for later. Didn't I just see you guys Monday? Yeah, Marcus said, but someone can't seem to shake their cough, so we had to come and see his doctor so he could get more albuterol. Oh, pish-posh. But he started coughing a bit then and kind of ruined the illusion. But we came to talk to you about this tree lighting thingamy at the Botanical Gardens tomorrow. I thought about it, nodding as I remembered the posters I'd seen. I'd heard about it, but I figured I'd go this weekend. Well, Marcus said, Gramps and I got special invitations, and we wondered if you wanted to come as our guest. I'd love to, but wouldn't your fiancé be a better choice for this? I can tell you from experience that they usually take it personally when you don't invite them to parties. Well, the invitation says that we can both bring a +1, so by that logic, we have 2 extras. Glimmer can come, too, so that my grandson doesn't end up in the doghouse. In that case, sure, I'd love to go. What's the dress code? Sunday casual, but dress warmly because it's supposed to be chilly. I nodded. That tracks for this time of year. I suppose I'll meet you guys at the gate then. 6 o'clock. Don't be late. You'll have to hang out with the rabble, Grandpa said with a wink. Oh, I'll be there. Thanks for thinking of me. I really appreciate this, I said, feeling honored. They hadn't known me very long, and it was quite nice to be invited along like a friend. I was coming to understand that to them, people who stood with them in the heat of battle were considered more than friends, and it had brought me into their circle, quickly and seamlessly. The 2 of them took their leave, and I got back to work. It appeared I'd be too busy tomorrow night to think much about overtime. There was a knock at the door, and Guthrie sighed as he told them to come on in. The sound of Christmas music came humming in from the door, and he heard the sound of Carla's heels on the wood floor as she came into his office. She set a plate down on the table, and Guthrie could have gratefully kissed her. Ribs, potato salad, a couple of burgers, and even a slice of cake. It was more than he deserved after yelling at them, but Carla knew the stress he was under and didn't hold it against him. We thought you might like some food, even if you won't join the party. Thanks. Hey, I'm sorry about earlier. I was surprised was all. I came in expecting trouble, and, I told them not to play around on the radio. 100... I know, Carla said, cutting him off. They aren't used to being under this kind of scrutiny. Be patient with them. They're good guys. They just need some work. They were always good for me, whispered that skeletal voice. But I never asked them to be anything but good old boy law enforcers. I know, Guthrie said, over the voice of his old boss. I don't think they realize how serious this is. This isn't just fun times. We could all be in a lot of trouble for their unprofessionalism. Carla shook her head. You're just a different man than Masterson's was. That's for sure, came the man in question. I'm I'm just trying to keep them above board, Guthrie said, looking at Carla hopefully, wanting her to understand. Just be patient with them, she said, smiling. They're trying. She left then, her heels clacking on the boards, as she left Guthrie with his ghosts. You sure you're up to this, Gramps? Marcus asked, as they drove home. The sky looked treacherous, and he felt like it could snow at any moment. Of course, Grandpa said, coughing into his handkerchief. I wouldn't miss it for the world. It's been ages since I've rubbed elbows with the Fae, and I had hoped to manage it again before I died. You don't, Marcus said, but he stomped on the brakes as the crossing guard held her sign out, with no small amount of agitation. You don't think it'll be like last year, do you? The kids scuttled across the road in their jackets and winter boots, and when the road was clear and the crossing guard had given Marcus one more withering look, he proceeded on. Let's hope not, Grandpa said with a chuckle. I think I've only got a couple of more throwdowns like that left in me. Marcus thought about the hospital and the Moon Elves Court and the battle at the garden the year before, and realized that he might be the one defending Grandpa this year if it came to it. His powers had grown substantially in the last year, but he still doubted that he was anywhere near as strong as Grandpa. The way he had fought the ghost girl a few weeks ago had left Marcus speechless, and he hoped one day that he could match that kind of display. All the same, we better come prepared, not just for the winter night, but also for whatever else might be there. Fays and demons and whatever else this town can throw our way. Not to mention we'll have John with us, so he can tell us if the spirit world decides to show up. You don't think... I think, Grandpa cut in, that I intend to go and have some of that delicious cider that I had last year, dance with pretty elf girls, and have the last hurrah of my long life. I suggest you do the same, but keep an ear peeled for trouble. Glimmer will be with us too, so we'll be as prepared as we can be. As Marcus pulled into the driveway, he certainly hoped so. The warden swirled the alcohol in his glass as he leaned against the rail of the tower's catwalk. Something was happening here, and the warden didn't like it. He had followed Sergeant Hall to confinement, where he found the last person he expected to find there. Sergeant Mobley was one of the oldest guards in his employ, and, as far as he knew, only worked nights. The daytime sergeant, a kid named Kiln, was standing at the window and looking into the pitch-black quad like there might be a monster in there. His eyes were wide as Mobley's had been on the night that it had all happened, all those years ago. As it happened, there was a monster in that quad, and the warden was suddenly wondering if Mobley had told him about it. The old sergeant knew better. He had been warned, but when a loud boom came from the wall of that dark quad, the warden realized that he hadn't had to say anything. What the hell is going on here? The warden hissed, looking at Mobley. There's something in the quad. It's like a cougar or something, and it's ripping the place apart, Kiln squawked. The glass shuddered again, but whatever was hitting it kept moving back out of sight as it did. Long cracks were appearing in the plexiglass, but they were on the layer inside. It hadn't made it through the second or third layer yet, and that was to be expected. The glass was over a foot thick, and even these creatures would have a hard time getting through it. Kiln, Mobley said, why don't you go down there with your guys? Tell them not to do anything foolish until it starts to come through the glass. Kiln nodded, looking back at the warden before running out of the station and heading for the floor. With the younger sergeant gone, Mobley turned his unsettling attention to the warden. Mobley was an old man, too old for a job like this. Corrections was a young man's game, but Mobley refused to retire. Maybe if this thing escaped, he would finally leave, but for the warden, that day couldn't come fast enough. He had forgotten his place. That look said so, and it also told him that the old man didn't care. "You tell me," Mobley said, looking away from the glass. "You pull all the strings in this place, don't you, boss?" The warden bristled. "I don't like your tone, Mobley. You might want to check it before you find something worse than a monster." Mobley scoffed, turning back to the glass as the thing hit it and fled again. "So you know about as much as we do. I don't know if that's more or less comforting. What I know is that creature, who's been quiet for decades, has suddenly started to try for an escape. Why is that, do you think?" Mobley shrugged. "How should I know?" "Because, Sergeant, you've made it your business to know. You've stood guard against this creature since it killed your friends. Whether that's out of some sense of guilt or because you want to make sure it doesn't happen again, I don't know. But I want to know why this is happening." Mobley only shrugged. "I can see only one reason why it would risk daylight to escape its home." The warden waited for a little, and when he didn't answer, the ruler of this place of shadows took the bait. "And what could that be?" "Someone's calling it," Mobley stated. The warden left not long after that, telling Mobley to call him if anything changed. Now he was standing on the catwalk, looking out at the forest that stretched beyond the limits of his eye. The warden wondered who could be calling such a creature. "Perhaps I've already been warned about it," the warden whispered, remembering a certain message that he had been given just before the work release center was closed forever. As twilight fell over the woods outside of Stragview, a lone figure walked through them. How many years had it been since he escaped that hateful edifice? 1, 2, somewhere in between, he imagined. He glanced at the sky and winced as something cold and wet hit his face. He reached up to catch the falling bit of chilliness and discovered that it was snowing again. It hadn't snowed in a while, not since last Halloween, and it felt like it had been only yesterday. He had been busy since his escape, so busy. He nearly had everything he needed to take down that hateful construct, but there was still work to do. He looked through the trees at the tower that rose above the wall of the prison. Could the warden be up there? Could he be watching the woods even now? Didn't matter. The warden would know about him before long. He and his new friends. He could feel them gathering around him. His pack. There was one trapped inside the prison, too. He had been calling to it. He knew that soon it would join him. He couldn't destroy the prison, though, not with just the help of his pack. He would need her help. He would need Jessie to discover her power. "Soon," he whispered, disappearing back into the trees with his new friends. He had nothing but time, after all. You're still here. Thanks for stopping by. Dr. Plague here. Always a pleasure to see all my new and old viewers coming by for another one of my spooky tales. If you'd like to support the show, you can always take part in one of our channel offers through Fume or Aura, or you can just click on another video when they come up I'd really appreciate it. For our newer viewers, we also have lots of playlists and other things if you'd like to get caught up. I know some of my series have been going on for quite a while. If you'd like to get my latest book, there's a link down below that'll take you to my Amazon page. Towesey Homestead just came out, so if that's something you'd like to get your hands on, go ahead and have a look down there. If you'd like a signed copy, you can go ahead and email me from my email address on the site, and I'll get with you about shipping information and ship you a signed copy. If you'd like to support the channel in a more monetary fashion, we also have membership through YouTube, and we've got a Patreon that you can get the information for in the description. We have lots of tiers and everything to suit your needs. Patrons that support on the $10 tier, that's our Ghostly Reader tier, get a book anytime I write one, signed and on their doorstep. As you may have noticed, there's a list of patrons and members on the screen, and I'd like to personally thank every one of them for taking a hand in the future of this channel. Well, that's enough for tonight. Dr. Plague, signing off. Have a wonderful evening.